Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3.
Oh, I got it.
You don't hear me? Okay, wait. Maybe there's a delay. Testing, testing, testing 1 2 3. Okay, hold on. Yeah, it's working. Okay, it should be working fine. Okay, great. It's delay. Alright, thank you.
Good morning. The Maryland Public Service Commission will come to order for its administrative meeting of August 31st, 2022. We do not have any agency announcements today, so we'll move to approval of the meeting minutes from our last meeting of August 24th, 2022. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The minutes are approved. Good morning, Mr. Secretary.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. At the outset, we'll be deferring item number 9 1 week to the next administrative meeting. There are 8 items on today's consent agenda. Items 1 and 2 are from Onyx Energy LLC. The first is an application for a license to supply electricity, and the second is an application for a license to supply natural gas. Item number 3 is a request from Train Energy Choice LLC to cancel its gas supplier license. Item number 4 is an application from CPV Energy Retail LLP for a license to supply electricity. Items 5 through 8 are weather station designations from Baltimore Gas and Electric Company, Easton Utilities Commission, Sandpiper Energy Inc., and Elkton Gas Company.
Thank you. Do commissioners have any questions on these consent agenda items? Seeing none, with respect to items number 1 and 2, I would move that we grant Onyx Energy LLC a license to operate as electricity supplier with respect to item number 1 and as a natural gas supplier with respect to item number 2 in Maryland, limited to broker services for customer classes and service territories applied for and recommended by staff, that we direct the company to provide marketing materials specific to its Maryland operations to commission staff 30 days prior to utilization of the materials in Maryland, and direct the company to file notice with the commission within 30 days of any changes to the information in either of its applications. With respect to item number 3, I move that we approve the cancellation request. With respect to item number 4, I move that we grant the company, CPV Energy Retail LP, a license to operate as an electricity supplier in Maryland for the customer classes and service territories applied for and recommended by staff. Direct the company to provide marketing materials and training materials specific to its Maryland operations to the commission staff 30 days prior to the utilization of the materials in Maryland, and direct the company to file notice with the commission within 30 days of any changes to the information in the application. With respect to item number 5, 6, 7, and 8, I move that we approve the weather station designations for the purpose of determining when there is an extreme weather period that requires restrictions on electricity and gas service terminations under COMAR Title 20, Subtitle 31, Chapter 3, Regulation 3, and Title 20, Subtitle 31, Chapter 3, Regulation 4. With respect to item number 10 and 11, I move that we accept the revised tariff pages for filing with an effective date of September 1st. I'm sorry, I've gone too far. I've gone way too far. This is the expedited agenda. All right, well,
New day.
we'll stop with those, and we will call a vote on those motions, beginning with Commissioner Bubar.
Aye.
Commissioner Linton.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Aye.
And Commissioner Richard.
Aye.
I vote aye. The motions are approved. Mr. Secretary, the administrative agenda.
Mr. Chairman, item number 10 is an update from Delmarva Power and Light Company to its retail transmission rates.
Mr. Seegers thought he got off easy. We'll start with our staff. Mr. Delgado.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Eric Delgado on behalf of staff. As noted in staff supplemental comments, there's a correction to Table 4 on page 6 of staff's comments. The depicted proposed summer on-peak rate for the residential time of use pilot program should be $0.239220 per kilowatt hour instead of $0.23933 $0 per kilowatt hour. Table 4 is for illustrative purposes only and does not affect any other aspect of staff's comments. On July 26, 2022, Delmarva Power and Light Company, or Delmarva Power, filed revisions to its retail transmission rates for retail customers to become effective September 1st, 2022. The purpose of the retail transmission rate is to recover costs associated with maintaining transmission infrastructure as well as transmission enhancements required by PJM's Open Access Transmission Tariff. The Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, or FERC, permits utilities to recover transmission costs and transmission enhancements through what is known as a formula rate. On June 1st, 2022, FERC approved Omava Power's annually updated formula rate. Changes to transmission rates as a result of the approved formula rate are as follows. Retail transmission rates for all schedules are changing between decreases of 13.36% to increases of 13.87%. Average monthly bill impact for residential customers with average monthly consumption of 1,004 kilowatt hours should expect monthly savings of 53 cents for summer and winter. Additionally, on August 26, 2022, in mail log number 242067, Omava Power submitted a supplemental filing correcting 2 errors in its original filing submitted on July 26, 2022. The total SOS off-peak summer and winter rates for the residential time of use pilot program are not properly depicted. The error is only within the specific tariff page and is not reflected in the Omava Power's billing system. The total SOS off-peak rate for summer incorrectly includes 2 decimals. It should read $0.055092 per kilowatt hour. The proper summation of the total SOS off-peak rate for the winter should be $0.069146 per kilowatt hour. Staff agrees with Omava Power's updated calculations and corrections. Staff recommends the Commission accept the original filing submitted on July 26, 2022, inclusive of the supplemental filing for an effective date of September 1st, 2022, and that Omava Power be required to file clean copies of its tariff. And that is all. Thank you. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Delgado. That was a very thorough recitation, and thank you for preparation of the buck sheet as well to the team as well. We'll turn to counsel for the utility.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Matthew Seegers appearing for Delmarva Power. We have nothing to add to staff's presentation, but we and Mr. Michael Norman, our subject matter expert, are available if you have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Seegers. Do the commissioners have questions of staff? We'll start with Commissioner Bubar.
Good morning, and thank you. Thank you, Eric. That was very comprehensive, and thank you. And I agree with staff's recommendation. I just have a question. I was at PJM yesterday, and so I actually went through some of these definitional terms to make sure I understand them, given that, these are early decisions for me. So I appreciated the opportunity to do that. But I just wanted to get some clarity on the income tax charge, because I note that's actually it increased 47%. I was just wondering if you could just give me a little bit more background on that increase.
Sure, I can bring up Mr. Norman, who can probably address that, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, I actually don't have kind of direct knowledge of what that income tax increase is. Kind of in this filing, we're just translating the FERC approved revenue requirement to retail rates. But that's, something we could probably follow up.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Mr. Delgado, is this your first time appearing before the commission as a member of staff?
Yep.
You did I have a long tradition, but I won't go there today. You did a fine job, sir. You did
Thank
a fine
you.
job.
Seeing no additional questions, I would move that we accept the revised tariff pages for filing with an effective date of September 1st, 2022. The vote begins with Commissioner Bubar.
Aye.
Commissioner Linton.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Aye.
And Commissioner Richard.
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion is approved.
Mr. Chairman, item number 11 is an update from Potomac Electric Power Company to its retail transmission rates.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Justy.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Anson Justy on behalf of staff. As noted in the supplemental comments, there is a correction in Table 5 on page 7 of staff's initial comments to note. For Schedule GT3A, the current summer maximum demand rate is listed as $1.0395 per kilowatt, and the proposed rate is listed at $0.77990 per kilowatt. These should be reversed, so the proposed rate is $1.0395 per kilowatt, and the current rate is $0.77990 per kilowatt. This results in the percent change value changing from negative 24.97% to 33.29%. On July 26, 2022, Potomac Electric Power Company, PEPCO, filed revisions to its Standard Offer Service Rider SOS to reflect the current Federal Energy Regulatory Commission FERC-approved wholesale transmission rate, which went into effect June 1, 2022. Transmission rates represent the cost of transporting bulk electricity from the generating plant to the smaller distribution system delivering to retail customers. These wholesale transmission rates are passed through to retail customer bills. An average residential customer should expect a 0.90% increase in their overall bills during the summer and a 0.95% increase in their overall bills in the winter. An error was discovered in the tariff, and the company filed an erratum on August 26, 2022. The correction occurs in the rate depiction for RTOUP. While the total rates charged to customers was calculated, depicted in the tariff, and implemented to the billing system correctly, a subcomponent to the total rate was not updated in the original filing, an oversight stemming from an April 22, 2022 filing, changing the RTOUP tariff depiction from one depicting only the total rate to one depicting the admin charge, non-admin charge, and total rate. The work papers and processes for future filings have now been updated to reflect the new needs for RTOUP tariff rate depiction. Unlike other rates, this pilot rate does not show the transmission charge individually. It is a bundled rate. So this causes a change in the staff recommendation as written in the originally filed comments. Rather than accepting the July 26 proposed tariff revisions, staff instead recommends the Commission accept the proposed tariff revisions for filing, inclusive of the correction filed August 26, 2022, with an effective date of September 1st, 2022, and that the company be required to file clean copies of its tariff. Thank you. I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Justy. We'll turn to counsel for the utility.
Good morning once again, Your Honors. We have nothing to add, but we are available if you have any questions.
Thank you. Questions on this item? Very comprehensive. Thank you. Seeing none, I would move that we accept the revised tariff pages for filing with an effective date of September 1st, 2022. The vote begins with Commissioner Bubar.
Aye.
Commissioner Linton.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Aye.
And Commissioner Richard.
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion is approved.
Mr. Chairman, item number 12 is a request from Chesapeake Utilities Corporation to establish a regulatory asset.
Good morning, Mr. Valcarengi.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. David Valcarengi on behalf of the Commission staff. On July 27th, Chesapeake Utilities filed a request to establish a regulatory asset for costs that it expects to occur for a new billing system. Presently, Chesapeake uses two different systems for its affiliates that are older systems and no longer have vendor support. Chesapeake estimates it will cost approximately $40 million to implement the new system and is expected to become operational in 2025. Company notes that accounting rules prohibit the company from capitalizing all costs expected to be incurred, and meaning approximately $9.3 million on a system basis and $1.3 applicable to Maryland will have to be expensed as incurred. A regulatory asset would remove those amounts from the company's operating income and preserve the cost until such time as Chesapeake files for a change in its base rates. A request to implement a regulatory asset does not approve or prejudge the cost, but preserves the cost for recovery until such time a change in rates happens. Staff recommends that Chesapeake be authorized to establish a regulatory asset pending review and examination of the cost incurred in a future rate case. The Office of People's Counsel.
They're here today, so we'll let them speak for themselves.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Valcarengi. Maryland Office of People's Counsel.
Good morning, Chair Stanek, Commissioners. Happy to be here this morning. Sort of unexpected. Our attorney Irene Wiggins is out sick, and so I'm stepping in as of 45 minutes ago. So we want to thank first Chesapeake for providing responses to our discovery requests, and we generally agree with the recommendation to and support the creation of a regulatory asset for the customer information system. We would just ask that if the Commission approves the request, that it require quarterly reporting on the amounts and items added into the regulatory asset. We think that the quarterly reporting will help monitor the situation. The estimates that we got from the discovery requests are early estimates of what the costs are. We want to monitor any delays in implementation, any deviations from the estimates. We think this is a relatively low burden on the company. It will provide some measure of accountability and help avoid surprises. Regulatory asset treatment is special accounting treatment. We do think it's appropriate here, but we also would like the opportunity to monitor the progress. We recognize that much of the information will, or all of it should be available at the time of a rate case, at the time the assets get moved in the rate base, but we're always under a time crunch, and we think it's useful, it's a valuable tool to be able to monitor the regulatory assets as it goes forward. The Commission has recognized this in other orders, including the COVID order and as well as the creation of the regulatory asset in the recent order on IIJA funding. We recognize that the company may say, well, that's different because those involve state and federal dollars. But ultimately, the same safeguards are in place under those proceedings as well, in that prudency is evaluated at the time of the rate case and at the time those costs. So I don't think that that's a significant difference between those situations and this situation. And again, we think this is the company should be monitoring and documenting as it goes forward, regardless. So the incremental cost or burden on the company is small. With that, again, we appreciate the company's response to our discovery, and we're happy to answer any questions that you have. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lapp. We'll turn to counsel for Chesapeake Utilities Corporation.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Brian Quinn on behalf of Chesapeake. Good morning, Commissioners. Full house today. It's good to see everybody. On behalf of Chesapeake, we agree with staff's comments, and we're here to answer any questions you may have. If you have any questions about what OBC just said, we're happy to address them.
Thank you, Mr. Quinn. We'll begin with questions. I have questions for People's Counsel. Mr. Lapp, you said that quarterly reporting or more regular reporting would ensure that there are no surprises and the information is fair and accurate. Would your request apply to every instance where the Commission creates a regulatory asset, that there's quarterly reporting for the utility?
I think I'd prefer not to weigh in on every regulatory asset. Here we have the discovery responses show that these are very preliminary estimates of what the cost of the customer information is. I know in my own experience prior at counsel to DHMH that many times these customer information systems end up with significant delays in implementation and significant cost increases. So we think it's important in this case to have that, especially in light of the company's discovery responses.
Does the fact that we know the utility has committed to coming into a rate case the January after next assuage any of these concerns? It's not as if Chesapeake is going to be out for 3 or 4 years. They've committed to coming in by no later than January of 2024.
We still think that the quarterly reporting, again, it's not a significant burden on the company. It will help us monitor the situation. We're often in a time crunch, and when it comes to a rate case, we have a timeline in which we can engage a consultant and get somebody to look at these reports. And so we do think the incremental value is greater than the relatively small burden on the company.
Okay, you characterize it as a relatively small burden. Let me ask Mr. Quinn, is it a relatively small burden to come in every 90 days with a update?
Thank you, Your Honor. I don't disagree. We have to monitor what we what the company puts in the regulatory asset, obviously, anyway. It's a very carefully done. I'm not sure what the point of these quarterly reports will be. If the point is to give staff more paperwork and for notification purposes, I don't really see the benefit. This is all going to be reviewed in a rate case eventually, where we have to make OPC can make any argument they want in terms of delay, actual versus estimates. We put estimates in the best we could at this time, talked to our IT folks and our operations people, but there are estimates. So if the point is just for notification purposes, staff or the commission orders us to submit a filing every quarter, we will do that for notification purposes. But if the point is to turn one of these quarterly filings that OPC doesn't like into some kind of hearing, that's really not appropriate. It would be premature. So it's up to you, of course, if you see a benefit to it. But to answer your question, we will do whatever the commission directs us to do.
Thank you, Mr. Quinn. I'll turn to my colleagues if they have questions. Commissioner O'Donnell.
Office of People's Counsel, Mr. Lapp, I wanted to ask you a question. Do you intend these proffered quarterly reports from the company to be something that enables you to do a mini prudency review from your perspective every quarter?
No, the prudency review occurs in the rate.
I know the formal one does, and I'm going to ask staff about that in a second, but.
Yeah, no,
would you kind of like review it for prudency and maybe envision some kind of filing to say they're off track? We don't like this.
I think that would be highly unlikely. I don't want to commit, to never saying anything if they came in and, the one, I think it's 1.3 million. If they come in with their first quarterly report and it shows that, it's 10 million, maybe we want to call the commission's attention to that. But no, we don't. I mean, the answer is no.
Okay, let me go to staff. Mr. Valcarengi, direct your attention to the language on page 3 of the buck sheet. The last paragraph before the recommendation, looks like maybe a sentence or two from the bottom of that paragraph. The deferral is simply an accounting maneuver that temporarily moves the costs out of operations until such time as they can be properly reviewed and examined. And then here's the language, and I just want to clarify. Ultimately, the costs in question will be examined in a rate case, and with those costs deemed to be appropriate for recovery will be amortized over an appropriate period. You're not saying by this action today we're deeming those costs to be appropriate. They will be deemed appropriate.
No.
They may be deemed appropriate, right? I'm just clarifying.
Yes.
They may be, or they may not be.
They may not be.
Okay.
What it's saying is if the commission deems those costs prudent and subject to recovery, that'll happen in the next.
I kind of
rate.
thought that's what you meant, but there's some people who have asserted in the recent past that by creating a regulatory asset, we're pre-approving,
No,
we're never going to be able to say no, and I just want to make sure
We
that's
were not
the case.
prejudging the cost in any way. What happens is it's simply preserving those costs in a bucket, and when you get to the rate case, anybody can take any position with respect to the costs that are on the table.
I mean, I understand that, you understand that, I think we understand that, but I just wanted to put an exclamation point on that. We are not pre-approving these expenditures just because we created a regulatory asset. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, that's all I have.
Thank you. Additional questions? Commissioner Linton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had a couple of questions for the company. Good morning.
Morning.
So we know in the past, in cases of some of our other utility companies, they've gone through the effort of replacing their internal billing systems. And along the way, as something as complicated as this, there's challenges in providing service to consumers, either through consumers being unable to utilize the system to pay bills, access information, etc. Does the company have a strategy on how to address those kinds of issues if and unfortunately when they may occur?
Yes, Commissioner Linton. As we said in our filing, these two billing systems, there's one for their Florida division, and there's one that operates the billing systems for their Maryland and Delaware. The systems are old. but they're working properly and they're issuing bills, timely and accurately. That system is going to remain working until we're ready to transition to the new one. So the problem is with these old systems, there are no more service agreements. They're not supported. The technology has moved so fast. Customers demand a little bit more out of, automated. They could get online now and check under the new system. They could do that. The old system, they can't. But we're committed to maintaining and operating the new system. The old system, in a way that it's operating fine now for as long as we can until we can transition. I'm no IT expert. I know it's a very difficult process. I've seen CIS systems replaced in the past, as you have in rate cases for other companies. It's a very complicated thing, but all I can tell you is we're prepared to do it and maintain customer service while it's going on.
Okay, so I'll ask one other question, then I have a comment. As you're developing the new system, you're going to be implementing new capabilities, new functionality for it. Has there been any effort to, at least at this preliminary stage, to talk to the technical staff, maybe other parties, to see if there's additional functionality that might be useful for the company to include at this stage while you're developing it, so that in the future, if there's certain data requests that that staff or other parties may need, the company can readily produce it as opposed to going through some extra effort to do so?
Yeah, Commissioner Linton, I'm not aware of any conversations we've had with staff other than this filing about the functionality of the billing system. I've read those prior cases. We cited them in footnote 8. There's a couple of examples where Pepco and Washington Gas changed their billing systems. I've read those cases, and for the detail of what they provide was interesting. But we're happy to talk to staff as we go through this process. They've already engaged a consultant that looked at alternatives. This is disclosed in our responses to OPC. So they're doing this right. They've talked to experts. They've talked to Ernst & Young consultant and got some advice on whether and how to go about this. But if there's additional functionality, I can get you more on how we're determining what types of customer services we're putting into the new system and what's important. And if staff has any input on that, we'd be happy to meet with them along the process. We're just getting started.
Good. Okay. So just a
And we'll commit to do that.
okay. Thank you. Just as a high-level suggestion, once you're at the point of getting ready to switch over from the old legacy system to your new system, perhaps you could reach out to our Consumer Affairs Division and the technical staff, just so that they're aware of the switchover nearing the time in which it will occur, and share any information you may have about how you plan on handling consumer challenges that might arise. Everything from new passwords being needed to access the system to connections on the websites, all these kinds of challenges that we've seen before. And that way, everybody's kind of on the same page as to how the company will respond.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Bubar.
Thank you, Commissioner Linton. Those were great suggestions. I have just a follow-up question for Chesapeake. So the information system was fully amortized in 2005, and then I think OPC pointed out in their filing that the Delaware PSC approved a regulatory asset being formed in 2016. I was just wondering if you can give any insights into what's happened since then in terms of, not coming forward until now.
Yeah, not much. Not much. No, as I said, I was involved in the Delaware rate case where this was being thought about. These systems are old. Delaware Public Service Commission approved that request, but in that case, we were just in the very early planning stages. It was a as we get there type of decision, and it's only been in the last year and a half where they engaged an outside consultant, and they're really starting to move forward. I don't know if Mr. Evergnam, who's here from the company, has any more insights. I think it's generally, business and budget and planning and, trying to prioritize different expenses as they come about. This system needs to be updated, and management decided that, now's the time to do it. The delay is just all I'm aware of. It's just general sort of business and budgeting and priorities. as I said, the system's working well. I mean, she's an oldie but a goodie, but it's time for her to go.
All right, thank you. And then I'll just offer a comment on the OPC request. I'm not really sure if we got that information, what we would do with it. I mean, they are estimates, and so if there is a big difference between the estimate and what the actual costs come in the interim, I don't really know how we would handle that. So I'm kind of struggling with trying to understand whether we would accept that, but.
Yeah, and I don't mean to make a federal case out of it, commissioners. It's just, I'm not sure I see the need for it either. I don't know what staff's position is on it, but of course, we'll do whatever you direct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Seeing none, I do agree with Commissioner Bubar that OPC's request would create additional filings for this commission, but in response to questioning by Commissioner O'Donnell, the People's Council noted that likely the report would result in little actionable value outside of a rate case. And for that reason, I will not include that request in the motion. I would move that we authorize the company to implement a regulatory asset as described in the filing pending review and examination of costs in a future rate case. The vote begins with Commissioner Bubar.
Aye.
Commissioner Linton.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Aye.
And Commissioner Richard.
I'm going to vote no. I support OPC. They've made a good point about the fact that this is a complex undertaking. The estimates are somewhat preliminary at this point, and if the representatives, statutory representatives of the residential customers think that they could use this information in preparation for the next rate case or for any other purposes, then I would support that. So for that reason, I vote no.
You're voting no, notwithstanding the fact that OPC is supportive of the regulatory asset? That's what we're voting on. My motion has nothing to do with OPC's requests. It's only the regulatory asset.
If you had put it in the motion that we would include the reports, I would have voted in favor of it. So
Okay.
will vote opposed. I oppose.
You're opposing the regulatory asset treatment that OPC supports.
Yeah, without the reporting requirement.
Understood. Thank you. I vote aye. The motion is approved.
Mr. Chairman, item number 13 is a request from Potomac Electric Power Company for approval of a revised project operational deadline for its National Harbor Energy Storage Pilot Project in case number 9619.
Good morning, Mr. Wilson.
Good morning, Mr. Commissioner and Commission. DeAndre Wilson here on behalf of staff. On April 15, 2020, PEPCO filed its energy storage pilot project for the National Harbor site pursuant to Commission Order number 89240 in case number 9619, which established an energy storage pilot program in accordance with the Energy Storage Pilot Project Act. The Commission approved PEPCO's energy storage project by Order number 89664 on November 6th of 2020, subject to the general conditions specified in the order and an operational start date of February 28, 2022. On October 1st, 2021, PEPCO filed updated project costs and a request for an extension of the operational start date of the project. The Commission approved the company's request for good cause, and the project's operational start date was moved to September 22nd of 2022. PEPCO now has filed its second request for an extension of the operational start date for its National Harbor project on July 29th of 2022 due to unanticipated project development delays, which include supply chain issues that have impacted the lead time for key energy storage project system components, and for additional approval requests made by the Prince George's County Planning Department. The company does not anticipate a significant cost increase to the overall project budget as a result of these unanticipated project developments, and therefore does not anticipate there being any impact to its primary value streams. The company also determined that the project will not exceed its already approved 50% contingency funding. Should the Commission not approve the company's request, the total stranded cost for the project is estimated at approximately $2.9 million, or 46% of the total project budget. primarily based on the fact that the equipment is specifically designed for this project and therefore redeployment would be difficult since the company has no current plans to construct any other B battery energy storage system projects. Pursuant to Public Utilities Article 7-216 H6II, staff recommends the commission approve the revised operational start date of April 31st of 2021 for Pepco's National Harbor Project for good cause. Staff would like to note that there have been additional comments filed to this extension request by the OPC and a member of the Prince George's County Council.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. And you noted the two filings that were made. They are on the record. We'll turn to counsel for the utility.
I'm sorry, Honor, did you want the Office of People's Counsel to go first, or would you like me to go first? Okay.
Counsel for the utility.
I'm happy to do so, Your Honor. Good morning once again. Matthew Seegers appearing for Pepco. Also appearing with me is Mr. Bob Andrikaitis, who's our subject matter expert for this project. We just have a couple of clarifications to make to one clarification to make to staff's buck sheet, as well as the OPC comments and the Prince George's Council member letter. Staff indicates in its buck sheet that the additional costs associated with the recommendations that came out of the mandatory referral process will be covered by the 50% of the contingency budget. I just wanted to clarify that we are still working with our vendor to see how much of our contingency budget will go towards those recommendations, but we do not expect that it will exceed the contingency budget that we updated to this commission in October of last year. Concerning the OPC comments, we are certainly appreciative that OPC supports our extension request. OPC does have a request that the commission include a condition in its approval that it will not approve any further extensions unless for absolutely unforeseen causes. We don't believe that this is necessary just because of the fact that the statute already speaks to this. The statute makes it clear that the commission can grant an extension as long as we come in and show good cause for unanticipated delays. So we don't believe that language is necessary in the commission's approval, should the commission, of course, decide to approve our extension request. And finally, in response to the Prince George's Council member letter, I would like to note that Pepco has been and continues to have extensive outreach with the community regarding their concerns with this project. Specifically, we have been having monthly community meetings since February of 2021, and we have also conducted several one-on-one meetings with various stakeholders in the community. We've developed detailed information on the project, which has been distributed at these community meetings and posted on Pepco's website as well as social media platforms. We also hosted an open house in April of 2022, and in each of these we addressed issues such as the safety and the maintenance of the battery, as well as how Pepco will implement industry best practices and work with local emergency management agencies and the local fire departments to ensure that they have the appropriate training. So with that, we are available if you have any questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Seegers. Do commissioners have questions on this item? Commissioner O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Wilson, let me ask you first, do you know why the staff at MNC PPC didn't want barbed wire on top of the fence as a security measure?
I don't know exactly why they didn't want the barbed wire on top of the fence. From what I think, from my recollection, they're making some changes to their requirements for new projects in their county, in their area, and so I don't know exactly why they may have not requested that. Maybe Pepco can answer to that as to that reason, but I don't know exactly why. But I do believe they've just been making some upgrades and some changes to their regulations in the county.
Company?
Yeah, good morning. Bob Adrikaitis, project manager for the project. So in response to the question, the concern was more of an aesthetics appearance, so they did not want something that looked utility type, so it was more of an aesthetics more than anything else.
Okay, thank you. So let me ask generally, and either one, staff or company can answer, about the nature of these recommendations in this review process. So when we do a CPCN, PPRP will come up usually with a list of conditions contingent on which approval is contingent upon meeting the conditions. But these say recommendations. Are these recommendations binding in any way? Are they conditional? What are these? What's the nature of these?
Yeah, these are purely recommendations, so the company can choose to implement these or not. When we have reviewed the recommendations, we have chosen to implement the majority of them because we believe that they are actually in the best interest of the community.
So they're not really conditions, and you have some latitude
Correct.
to
That is
negotiate. Okay, very good. That helps my understanding. Thank you.
Commissioner Richard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just for the company, I'm just interested a little more about the site chosen. I'll confess I do pass by there, particularly on Saturdays or Sundays, trying to get to Home Depot without avoiding all the traffic on Oxon Hill Road, so I am familiar with this. Is this particular facility going to be right where the brick structure is of the substation, the existing structure there?
Yeah, so it's roughly a 5-acre property. If you're looking like at the front of the property, the substation would be like on the left of the driveway, the entrance driveway. The battery energy storage facility would be directly to the right of the driveway, but set back from the road.
Okay, so it's proposed as a second then brick structure.
Correct.
In addition to the existing brick structure. And the existing brick structure doesn't have barbed wire on it, does it?
No, it does
Okay,
not.
so,
It's an enclosed building.
okay, so does this particular facility, the BESS facility, need additional security in addition to, well, what you already have at the existing substation facility?
Right, so the height of the wall actually is roughly 2 feet above the highest piece of equipment that would prevent anyone that would want to scale the wall to be able to get into there. So that is a deterrent. We do have some barbed wire that would still remain above the fence because there would be chain link gate, so that would have to be some sort of prevention measure on top of that. We have also installed cameras on our existing substation pointed at this facility, so if there was anyone that was to access the facility, we would be notified of it at our control center.
I see. Okay, and I observe a generally well-maintained site. It's a very mixed-use type of overall neighborhood with a number of different uses. There are some residential. There is that daycare center not too far, but there's also a large, several large, I guess, automotive repair, welding, that type of structure. So it is a very mixed-use area.
Yes.
Okay. I guess anything else I wanted to know about that? Just I do hear people talking about this project for some reason. There is some landscaping now around the current structure. Is the company planning to augment that in any way?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
just in reaction, I guess, to some of the neighborhood requests.
Yeah, so for multiple facets, usually when we approach a project like this, we always look to give back to the community in some way. So in part, we were already planning how to add and enhance the site in some manner. Going through the mandatory referral process, staff also recommended us to add additional landscaping, additional trees on the site, enhance the landscaping, replace the fence, so do other mechanisms to improve the aesthetics of the property. So we will be fully enhancing what is currently existing.
Okay. Good. I guess the other question I have is, it's called the National Harbor Project, but it's several miles from National Harbor. Are there going to be benefits to the, I guess, surrounding areas? I mean, I almost wonder why you didn't call it the Rivertown Shopping Center project, since that's much larger and right there. I'm just curious why National Harbor, and if there is more linkage to the, I guess, more of the surrounding neighborhoods.
Yeah, I think the term came from more of the overall development of an area, kind of being the National Harbor area, but not specifically where this is located. And currently, we're actually calling it the Livingston Road
Okay.
Battery Energy Storage facility because that's more specific to what we're constructing and not the National Harbor Battery Project.
Okay, so there is regional, I guess, larger neighborhood benefits to this project.
Yeah.
Has that been communicated to the surrounding areas? Because I
Yes.
think sometimes there's National Harbor is a very Tony type of ritzy place, and then, the rest of the neighborhood sometimes feel a little left out. But is that generally being communicated that this is good for the whole region?
Yes, it has been, and we've actually designed it, and we'll be adjusting the way our distribution system is constructed to directly benefit the neighborhood that is adjacent to the battery facility in Livingston.
Right, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Linton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning. So unlike Commissioner Richard, I am not familiar with the area. I don't think I've driven by this area before. So, but the best I have in terms of the community's response is the letter that we received from Councilmember Burrows, and there he references some of the interaction that the community members have had with the company. One part of his letter, which was somewhat concerning to me, was the suggestion that the company has repetitively shared major safety, environmental justice, and transparency issues. Could you help me to understand what I understand his concerns regarding, and he's bullet pointed them, so I understand the concerns that some of the residents have. Has there been some challenge with the company communicating with its residents there?
I wouldn't say we've had a challenge. I would say it always comes down to open communication. So as Mr. Seegers mentioned, we have been communicating with the residents for well over or some sort of runoff. So that is primarily their concerns. But in our discussions, we have addressed each one of those and explained what actions we are taking to prevent something to happen. We have brought in third-party experts to help evaluate our designs. We have an in-house safety expert that is also evaluating our designs and is fully educated and has credentials about design protocols and all the safety standards that we are going to be implementing for the design and construction of the facility.
Okay, so one of the comments that Councilmember Burrows notes is that community members feel their concerns are being ignored, and so by asking for a delay, it seems as though there's a bit of providence here, because the company is asking for a delay for a different reason. So perhaps, assuming you're successful in your request, during that delay, you could redouble the effort to try and make sure that the concerns that, well, you're addressing the concerns in terms of safety and other issues, but it's a different issue if consumers feel as though they're being ignored. So that's a different challenge that the company will have to address.
Understood. And we plan to continue our monthly meetings with the community and double our efforts.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Bubar.
Thank you. Actually, I had a couple questions which Mr. Seegers already answered, so appreciate that. So I just have one follow-up question. Are the remaining permit or the permit requirements that are remaining to be met, are they all from Prince George's County agencies?
Yeah.
No federal?
Yes, they are.
Okay. And does the council have a role in approving, or are they all from to be approved by the executive branch, so to
By the
speak?
executive branch. So they're for DPI and other agencies.
Okay. And I would support Commissioner Linton's recommendations that the efforts be doubled down to address the issues that Mr. Burrows raised in his letter. Thank you.
Understood.
Thank you. Additional questions, Commissioner Richard.
Okay, just one follow-up. I know safety is also a very critical issue for this area. I mean, there is a fire station probably less than a quarter mile from this site. Has the company reached out to that particular fire station to specifically try to address some of the concerns of the community?
Yes, we have, and we're continuing to have those conversations. We've had numerous conversations with them, and actually have invited them to attend some of our community meetings, with the public.
Okay, yeah, because that also seems like a feature. I mean, that fire station is right there. And it's
Exactly.
very, very close. I think you can see it actually from the site. So I think any type of interaction you have with that fire station and reassurance that you're helping to bolster its capabilities would also be, I think, greatly appreciated by the community. So thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any additional questions before we take a vote? Seeing none, I'd move that we approve the revised operational start date of April 31st, 2023 for the company's National Harbor Project, otherwise known as the Livingston Road Project, pursuant to Public Utilities Article Section 7-216, H as in hotel, 6, little 2I for good cause. The vote begins with Commissioner Bubar.
Aye.
Commissioner Linton.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Aye.
And Commissioner Richard.
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion is approved.
Mr. Chairman, item number 14 is the 2022 STRIDE Projects Status Report from Columbia Gas of Maryland, Inc.
Good morning, Mr. Acosta.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Carlos Acosta, on behalf of Commission's staff. On August 1st of this year, Columbia submitted its calendar year 2022 STRIDE mid-year report on the status of the 2022 projects approved by the Commission on December 15, 2021 for recovery through Columbia's STRIDE replacement and improvement surcharge. This is the fourth year of Columbia's STRIDE 2 program. Staff has reviewed the filing and found the calculations to be accurate. Staff recommends that the Commission note the filing. I am available to answer any questions you may have on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Acosta. Counsel for the utility, Mr. Collins.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Thank you so much. I am Carville Collins here on behalf of Columbia Gas of Maryland. I have with me today Ken Fillion. He is Principal Engineer and our subject matter expert. I want to thank the staff for their review and comments and recommendation. By way of just brief update, since the end of the reporting period, which is June 30th of this year, just wanted to report that 2 of the 9 STRIDE projects on our list have now been completed. And as to the remainder of the STRIDE projects, we are on track, we believe, to complete all of them by the end of this calendar year. Mr. Fillion and I are available if the Commission has any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. I think that was a question you were going to get, so you prematurely, proactively answered that. Questions for the utility, Commissioner Buar.
I noted that you did not report any issues associated with supply chain, and I was just wondering if there were any issues, if that was an oversight, or if you feel like that's not going to affect your project schedules.
Thank you, Commissioner. Let me ask Mr. Fillion to address that, if I may.
Good morning. Ken Fillion, Principal Engineer. Let me state that our company is not exempt from supply chain issues. They exist. They're absolutely real. But at this time, I can't state that we have anything specific that's going to prohibit us from completing the work for this year.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions? Seeing none, I would move that we note the filing. The vote begins with Commissioner Bubar.
Aye.
Commissioner Linton.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Aye.
And Commissioner Richard.
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion is approved. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, item number 15 is the 2022 STRIDE Status Report of Washington Gas Light Company.
Good morning, Mr. Tesfaye.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Negotiators Tesfaye on behalf of Commission staff. On August 1st, 2022, Washington Gas filed its calendar year 2022 semi-annual STRIDE status report regarding its calendar year 2022 STRIDE projects, which were approved by the Commission on March 2, 2022, together with the amended STRIDE surcharge by 14.7% for the remainder of the calendar year. The company, through its informational update filed on June 24, 2022, has brought forward 43 distribution and 10 transmission projects from the previous calendar year 2021, which were originally planned to be completed by December 31st, 2021, but now those projects carried over to the calendar year 2022 project list. Number two, the company also decreased 0.2 miles of main abandonment and 38 services in total replacement or transfer. That's according to the company due to the final design updates. And number three, in this filing, Washington Gas also increased the estimated calendar year 2022 stride total spend by more than 8.1 million due to the trailing cost of those carried over projects from 2021. However, the company also stated that it will not vary from the commission approved budget of 75.3 million. That's the total budget for 2022 project, and will not file a revised surcharge. Rather, I quote, the company will fund the increase through normal replacement dollars, that is, non-stride dollars, unquote. Also, the company informs that the impact of COVID-19 on customer coordination issue is ongoing, but has been diminished with no replacement projects that were currently on hold because of COVID-19. Washington Gas provided the results of the calendar year 22 stride distribution projects as of June 30, 2022. As shown in Table 2 on page 6, the company remediated or replaced 1,739 services of the planned 3,810, which is about 46%. Also installed a total of 7.76 miles of main versus 17.21 total miles planned for replacement, that is about 45%, and retired 3.84 miles of mains from the system of planned total 70.27 miles, that's about 22% for the calendar year 2022. As of this mid-year filing, the company seems behind track, less than 50% of total completion rate to close its calendar year 22 stride distribution projects by the end of the year. Staff recommends that the Commission note the company's 2022 semi-annual annual stride status report, and I'm available to answer any question you may have on this matter, and thank you.
Thank you for the thorough analysis and the buck sheet. We'll turn to counsel for the utility.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. John Dodge, appearing on behalf of Washington Gas. Building upon the wisdom of my friend, Mr. Carville, I do have a slight update from the June 30th report. As of August 15th, we have now installed about 64% of the planned main versus, I believe, 45 that Mr. Tesfaye referenced. We have remediated about 60% of the planned services. It's always of interest to the Commission how we're doing on our cost estimates and the cost variances, and we have quite good news to report that for calendar year 2022, that project list, our total overall cost variance is 7%. And for the Stride 2 program to date, or through August 15th, the cost variance for all closed distribution projects is 8%. So we are cautiously optimistic that trend will continue. We've worked very hard, particularly with respect to paving and restoration, to manage and understand those costs, and the results are showing that. With that, I do have a small team here with me, and we're ready and willing to answer any questions the Commission may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dodge. It appears the utility has come a long way in the past year. The numbers are coming back into line. They were well out of range at our last review, so I'm very glad to see this. I'll turn to my colleagues if they have questions. Commissioner O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me ask staff first. Unless I missed it in the buck sheet, there didn't seem to be any mention of low-pressure main replacements. Am I wrong on that?
As it is noted in the calendar year 22 project list filing, Washington Gas is not proposing any low-pressure pipe replacement in this.
Oh, there is a mention. It's what you just said. They did not propose to retire or abandon any low-pressure main in calendar year 2022. Mr. Dodge, why not?
As we have discussed in the past, sir, the data don't indicate that low-pressure main on our system should be separately modeled. So we still look at the pipe types, the vintages of pipes, not the pressure service on those pipes.
I would bet that the folks in Andover, Massachusetts, and North Andover, Massachusetts, and that locale area, the utility that used to exist up there, would beg to differ with you, as do I. I think they're dangerous systems, and you don't seem to think so. So, your company.
The company, as I've explained before, continues to use heightened scrutiny and operational methods for our low-pressure system. You will recall that we reported to the Commission after the Andover incident, as many LDCs across the country did. We stood down low pressure, and we turned it back on, if you will, after we were satisfied that we had no operational issues such as plagued Andover.
Well,
and
if you have an Andover kind of issue, you can recall these discussions and say, I told you so.
I understand.
And there'll be very little quarter from this commissioner.
I understand.
Okay, very good. Let me ask you about your transmission projects that are brought forward from 2021. They seem to indicate that a lot of them, or some of them, are 25% done, and we're getting ready to end the third quarter. So it's 2 years, and you're going to do 75% of the work in 1 quarter. Did I get that right?
Well, I'm going to bring up Aaron Stuber, who is our Director of Transmission Projects, and Greg DeKramer, who also works on transmission, to answer that. I will say that many of the projects that were brought forward are planned 2-year projects. So the design phase was in the first year. As permits come in, then we're able to go to the second phase, which is installation. But I'll turn it over to Mr. Stuber first to entertain your question.
Hello.
Mr. DeKramer,
Yep. It's okay, I stepped in. Greg DeKramer on behalf of Washington Gas. In regard to the 10 transmission projects that were carried forward from 21 into 22, 7 of those were pipe complete but not closed, and that was the reason for them carrying forward. Since that time, 7 of them have closed, with the remaining 3 anticipated to close and being managed to close in by the 1st of November. The pipe work on those is complete.
So in 2 years, you've done, what this book sheet says is 25% completed, and you're going to do 75% of the work within the next 4 months, and be completed and signed off and done.
So the 2021 projects are all pipe complete and will all be closed by November 1st. 7 of the 10
How can
are
they be
closed.
pipe complete when this says that they're 25% completed?
Because I think they're keying off of closure versus pipe in service. So the lagging activity has been
I know, but the disconnect, you seem to be saying to me, Commissioner, they're just about done. And when I read the buck sheet that says they're 25% done, there's a disconnect there.
I understand the confusion. So that which is in, was carried forward, the 10 that were carried forward, which I understood was your question from 21, they are pipe complete. 7 of the 10 are closed, and the remaining 3 will be closed by November 1st.
So 75% of the work is in the paperwork closure?
So in regards to the 2022 projects, the ones initiated in 2022, those ones are 25% complete or thereabouts, and we're working to complete those and close those this year. So I think there's a difference between the 2021 carry forward projects and those that were initiated on the 2022 list.
Okay, it still doesn't answer my question. I think you might be right, but it still doesn't answer my question, why they can be listed as 25% complete, but will be completed by December 31st.
Well, I can take from this discussion and provide subsequent analysis, breaking it down by the 2021 and the 2022 to more clearly demonstrate, I think, where we are, if that would be helpful.
Just confusing. To me, it feels like another indication of confusing information from the company.
Commissioner Dahlm, if I may, are all these projects going to be completed by the end of this year?
That's what we're currently predicting and managing to, yes.
Okay, thank you. Other questions? Seeing none, I would move that we note the filing. The vote begins with Commissioner Bubar.
Aye.
Commissioner Linton.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Aye.
And Commissioner Richard.
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion is approved.
Today's final item, item number 16, is the 2022 STRIDE Program Semi-Annual Report of Baltimore Gas and Electric Company.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Kobe and Yanam on behalf of Commission staff. On August 1st, 2022, BGE submitted a STRIDE Media Report to give the Commission a status update of projects approved by the Commission on December 22nd, 2021 for recovery through a STRIDE program surcharge. The company is facing challenges in procuring materials and components for gas service replacements due to inflation pressures and disruption of the physical supply chain. As a result of these challenges, the company is experiencing suppressed progress compared to previous years in replacing gas services. The company, however, provided the following update on its mid-year report filing. On cast iron mains, the company has abandoned or replaced 11.7 miles. That's 25% of projected work. On bare steel mains, the company has replaced 0.03 miles. That's 2.7%. On coated steel mains, the company has abandoned 1.4 miles. That's approximately 20% of the projected work. The company has also abandoned 1.1 miles of plastic main. That's approximately 29% of the projected work. On 3/4 inch pre-1970 high-pressure steel services, the company has installed 2,177 total number. That's about 40% of the projected work. And for services through the service replacement program, the company has 1,752. That's approximately 34%. Staff has reviewed the filing and found the calculations to be accurate, and staff recommends that the Commission know the filing. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Kobe. We'll turn to counsel for the utility.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Daniel Herson for Baltimore Gas and Electric Company. I'm joined today by two of our managers, Colin Tidings, who's our Manager of Reliability Programs, and Kevin Nelson, our Manager of Project Execution. We don't have a formal presentation, but I would like to make a few remarks about our filing. Hearing Columbia Gas, I'm a little bit envious of them and when they say they don't have supply chain issues, because we are having supply chain issues, and in fact, that is the issue for us this year. It's been frustrating for us as a company because we have the projects, we have them designed, they're ready to go, we have the crews to do them. We just don't have the parts. We don't have the materials to get these jobs done, and specifically, it's really focused on the gas services, the part of the system that runs from the mains in the street up to the various properties. We are being told by our suppliers that these parts are just not available, and that has a profound impact on our ability to get work done, directly impacting the proactive and reactive service replacement programs, and frankly, indirectly impacting the main replacement programs, because as we've explained in years past, we, in order to avoid taking customers out of gas service, we do not consider a project complete, and we don't abandon a gas main until we've switched every customer attached to that main over to the new main. So without the services, we can't move all of those customers over to the new main. We can't gas up the new main and call that project completed and count that towards our abandonment totals for the year. It's frustrating for us. Like I said, we are trying to do what we can to mitigate it. You know, much like my children, when they come to me with complaints, I say, I don't want to hear complaints. I want to hear solutions. You know, what can we do to fix this problem? Mr. Nelson and Mr. Tidings have assured me that they're doing everything they can. Some examples, we're increasing the scope of the suppliers that we're talking to. We're trying to increase our stockpiled inventory. In the past, although it wasn't a just-in-time sort of situation, we didn't want to stockpile materials too far in advance and incur those costs if we didn't need to. But now we're changing that policy, and we're looking to stockpile more materials and parts. Also, we're asking our distributors to stockpile more, and we're ordering farther ahead than we might have done in the past. We're hoping it's going to help, but to be completely frank and transparent with your honors, they're telling us in many cases they don't have the ability to get what they want. They say, BGE, we want to give you that service component or that riser, but I don't have the coupling we need. I don't have the ring we need. It's held up in some supply chain issue somewhere, so unfortunately we can't get you those parts. I don't like the numbers that we've presented to you on the mid-year report. I realize they're lower than what we've had in past years at this point in time, but I do want to commit to the Commission that we're looking at this very closely. We're doing what we can to try to mitigate the situation, and when we are doing the work, we continue to be hyper-focused on our two top priorities: low pressure system replacement and those pre-1970 3/4-inch high-pressure steel services. Those are our areas we're trying to focus all of our materials and priority on, so as the supplies come in, that's where they're going, to those projects. We're here to answer any questions you may have. We're doing what we can, but I acknowledge and understand that the Commission, as like the company, are a little bit frustrated with where we were in our mid-year report.
Thank you, Mr. Hurston. I appreciate your honest assessment of a difficult situation. We understand that there are supply chain issues throughout the power and gas sector. Transformers on the electric side have been hard to find. It's taking what took 12 weeks now takes a year and a half. I'm not surprised to hear that we're having similar supply chain issues on the natural gas distribution side. Some of these are outside of your control, but I do appreciate the efforts of the team to be proactive and to anticipate these and build these in going forward so these numbers could get back on track. I turn to my colleagues if they have questions. Commissioner O'Donnell.
I don't know if it's as much a question as it is a comment for BG&E, and that is your continuing prioritization of replacing the low-pressure main, and I appreciate that. I really do. I mean, your company has a long history. It's several hundred years old from its founding. Rembrandt Peale founded the company in 1816, and one of the oldest, if not the oldest, street illuminating gas lights is right a couple blocks down the street here, as a display, a historical display. So you have a lot of experience, over 200 years, and you have decided as a company that yes, it's important to get this stuff out of the ground. Everybody doesn't believe that, obviously. But I wanted to thank Baltimore Gas and Electric Company for your continuing efforts in this area, because I think it's important to the safety of the citizens of the state.
Commissioner Bubar.
I would just make a comment that I echo the chairman's comments. I appreciate your honesty in explaining what the issues are and what you're doing to try to tackle them.
At this point, I will call a motion that we note the filing. The vote begins with Commissioner Bubar.
Aye.
Commissioner Linton.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Aye.
And Commissioner Richard.
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion is approved with no additional business on today's agenda. We will see you in September.